There's a lot of information out there about pre-pointe training. There's handbooks and courses, all sorts of things. And I've been looking at them for decades. But if I'm honest, there's a lot missing. So in this short video, I'm just going to share with you my top 3 mistakes that I think dancers and dance teachers make in pre-pointe training. Number 1, focusing on rises. Why do I say that? Well, gosh darn, I mean, come on, shouldn't we be working on our rises? Yes, but just getting really good at rises doesn't necessarily condition the foot. It's going to do a fantastic job for conditioning the calf muscles, but not necessarily the foot. Particularly because what I usually see is people working on straight leg rises all the time. And that misunderstanding that I have to work on having straight legs in order to rise on point. That misunderstanding gets dancers into all sorts of problems later when maybe they want to jump on point, and straight knees and being on point, they're not the same thing. Straight knees do not get me on point. A strong foot gets me on point. What's the difference between being on point versus being on demi-point? It's the use of the actual muscles in the arch and the toes. So my calf muscles should already be getting super strong with all my demi-point or 3/4 point work. So that's the number 1 mistake I see, is dance teachers and dancers focusing primarily on just multiple rises, particularly with a straight leg. And that is only a small portion. What's the other mistake that I see? Sitting on the floor and using TheraBands. Is it wrong to do that? Absolutely not. But what is incorrect is to think that you are strengthening your feet for point. Again, you're probably strengthening your calves. You might be strengthening your toes a bit, which is good. But the real function of the foot, the difference between pronation and supination, pronation is when the arch unwinds and flattens appropriately. Not that you have a flat foot, but that the arch flattens during weight bearing, particularly into the plie or fondu. And then supination, where it re-twists up and becomes a nice powerful lever, such as you'd want for a jump or of course for a rise. That only happens weight bearing. You cannot practice supination and pronation sitting with your legs out in front using a TheraBand. So there's a lot of dancers who do a lot of work with TheraBands and they get super strong, but they're not actually training the changes in the arch of the foot. So the arch of the foot may not be getting any stronger. Now that brings me to my final and third point just for this video about what are the mistakes I see with pre-pointe. And that is focusing on just the physical skills. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's say you do know about using weight bearing in order to get pronation and supination. And all you do is conditioning. Well, the truth is that young dancer getting ready for point needs new, enhanced, and deeper self-assessment and noticing skills. They need to have greater maturity. They need to have the ability to visualize and use imagery effectively, because it's a whole picture. If they're going to be going through the discomfort, and there will be some, of getting into point shoes, they need to be self-aware enough to know that they're not looking down. They're not gritting their teeth and grinding their jaw and lifting their shoulders and linking all that in with some of their beginner point work. Because how you first link in some of that first time on point, it's really hard to break those habits later. So are these students getting the training to become self-aware and have noticing skills? Are they getting the training to be able to create micro through to macro goals for themselves so that they even do some of the appropriate conditioning at home? If we leave it just up to the in-class work, you know as a dance teacher how long it's going to take. So are you giving your students the skills to safely practice at home? Whether that's in pointe shoes, or in this case, we're talking about pre-pointe or not. Do they know what to practice, how to know what their body needs? Do they understand the anatomy well enough to even understand their uniqueness that they may be having with their anatomy? And of course, everybody's feet are different. So those are the 3 top points that I see not being addressed appropriately. Focus on the calf muscles, or maybe even working on the core and the turnout, which again, my turnout muscles don't get me on pointe. That's something I should be working on just for my ballet technique, regardless of whether I'll ever be on pointe. So me having strong abdominals is not a substitute for me actually getting the function of my arch going, which brings me to point number 2, doing a lot of non-weight bearing and basically not understanding how the arch functions. So working to teach pointe work without understanding the rearrangement that the foot goes through between pronation and supination and how to make sure that that's happening. So there's a lot of work on the strengthening, but not the mobility of the foot for those changes to take place. A really mobile foot will become a strong foot. A foot that's working on strength without that mobility happening through the proper kinetic trains is not going to gain the right strength that we need for successful and injury-free pointe work. And then of course that last piece, what you'd call sort of the soft skills, the skills that are more about the mind and the mind to the body. If those aren't being developed, you can have a strong dancer, but they're always looking to you for all the feedback. They don't know if they're doing it right because they've not been trained on how to feel and sense and notice and assess and make changes and all that for themselves. So to fill these gaps, I have created quite a comprehensive course called To the Pointe Beyond Exercises. And now I'm sure you can understand why it's called Beyond Exercises. While there are dozens and dozens of exercises there with students or myself demonstrating or a fellow teacher, there's way more than that. I've got brain gym exercises to help them be integrated enough to be learning and noticing. Lots of noticing skills, lots of anatomy lessons, some imagery lessons. There is a huge scope, all of which I believe is important. You can actually look in one of the links below here to see what the actual categories are for all the lessons. And then you'll see how big the scope is. It can be done as a course in several ways. If you are a dancer listening to this, you stumbled upon it, you can do it on your own, absolutely. If you're a dance teacher, you can also do it on your own. However, this program was actually designed to be a supplemental online program for dance studios to offer to their students who are of the right age and preparedness, and then for there to be a teacher lead. So the teacher of those 10 students is also taking it concurrently. And there are Zoom calls that we will have and all that to get the Q&As. It can be done as a summer dance intensive. It could be done across the whole season. There's like 16 weeks of lessons, 3 a week. So there's a lot of material. It's up to you how to decide how you want to spread it out. The links below will take you to more information about all of these programs and how best to apply it to your needs. Just know that my experience has taught me that if we simply look at a lot of the resources out there that are good, all these exercises, here's the TheraBands, here's how to use the balls, all those things, they're good, but they are not the complete picture. So if you want more than just the exercises, hence the term Beyond Exercises, then you're going to want to check out this program. There was absolutely no point in me creating a program that's already being done. That whole recreating the wheel. Why do I need to do that? I don't, so I didn't. What I have created is a program filling in those blanks. So this program does not have all the tests, like the pencil test, we all know that. But what it does have is probably a dozen lessons on how to get mobility in the foot, particularly say the front of the arch. Why might they be curling their toes? It's no good telling somebody to stop curling their toes. They know that. But do you know why they curl their toes? What reflex it's related to, and what reflex integration movements you can do, or they can do, to make those changes? You don't know those things yet, then you're not able to fully serve your dance students who have those issues. And let's be honest, most of them are going to present with some challenge. Are you focusing just on calf muscles, particularly straight leg rises? Are you doing a lot of sitting exercises to try to develop the strength? And are you only focusing on developing strength instead of the mobility and the mental and even the emotional? All right, it's a whole big picture. We're teaching whole people, and they need to be ready for the challenge of pointe. I invite you to check out To the Pointe Beyond Exercises and to get a fully well-rounded scope of practice and tools to reach all of your students in a way that you can feel super confident that you are giving them everything that they need. And by the way, this program is also great for first or second year pointe dancers who are still trying to gain greater skills, and again, to make sure that they are on their journey without some of those very typical compensations and coping skills that are really hard habits to break later. I look forward to seeing you in the course, and if you do the program with the studios, I really look forward to meeting your students and you on our Zoom calls. Thank you for watching.